Craig Jones has built one of the strangest reputations in modern jiu-jitsu because he can disappear from serious competition, joke about barely training, spend months looking more interested in traveling and partying than chasing medals, and then walk back into a room filled with elite grapplers and somehow still look like the smartest person on the mat. Most people see that and assume Craig is simply so talented that normal rules do not apply to him. But I think the real explanation is more useful because Craig does not need to win every exchange or know every technique when he understands how to force the match toward the small number of situations where he is still better than almost everyone alive. That is the hidden advantage behind his style, because he is not trying to play a fair version of jiu-jitsu where both athletes meet in the middle and compare who is more complete. He is constantly trying to funnel the match toward positions where the opponent has fewer good decisions, and Craig has already seen almost every reaction. This is why a grappler can train more hours, have better cardio, look sharper in normal rounds, and still feel completely lost against someone like Craig, because all of that preparation only matters when the match stays in the areas where those qualities can actually be used. Craig is famous for making jiu-jitsu look casual, but underneath the jokes, there is a very serious understanding of where he wants the match to go, and once he recognizes the route, he does not waste energy, proving that he can beat you everywhere, because he only needs to guide you toward one place where your options become predictable. You can see this in the way he approaches leg entanglements, front headlocks, wrestle-ups, false rib positions, back exposure, and the strange transitions that seem loose until the opponent realizes every escape has moved them closer to the exact trap Craig wanted from the beginning. The important part is not that Craig knows some secret move nobody else has seen, because at the highest level, almost everyone has watched the same instructionals and studied the same positions, but Craig is unusually good at connecting one reaction to the next until the opponent is no longer choosing where the match goes. That is what funneling really means in jiu-jitsu, because you begin with the final position where you have the largest advantage, then you work backward and build reliable routes from common situations until your entire game starts pushing people toward the same destination. Craig's game feels different because his positions communicate with each other. So when one attack fails, it does not feel like failure, it feels like the opponent has simply selected the next part of the sequence. And that creates the impression that Craig is always one step ahead, even when he is reacting in real time. This also explains how someone can take time away, train less than the people around him, come back, and still beat teammates who have been working every day, because physical sharpness disappears faster than strategic understanding, while a deeply connected game can survive periods where timing, conditioning, and speed are not perfect. A grappler who depends on winning 10 hard exchanges in a row needs constant training to keep every part sharp, but a grappler who has learned how to narrow the match into 2 or 3 familiar reactions can remain dangerous, because he is not asking his body to solve as many problems. Craig does not need to dominate the entire match when he can create one moment where the opponent has to post a hand, turn a knee, expose a hip, retreat from pressure, or accept an underhook, because that single reaction can be enough to pull the match into a chain he has repeated for years. When Craig gives an opponent space, it is often not free space, because he is offering a direction that appears safe while quietly removing the alternatives, and by the time the opponent realizes they were being guided, they have already entered the position where Craig has the stronger grips, the better angle, or the more dangerous secondary attack. Being excellent at one leg entanglement is not enough when you cannot reliably reach it, which is why the real skill is creating entries from seated guard, half guard, wrestling exchanges, failed sweeps, passing reactions, and defensive scrambles. So the same area of strength remains available from many different starting points. Craig has spent years building these connections, which means he does not need the match to begin in his best position, because he only needs the first link in the chain. And once he finds that link, he can begin moving the opponent toward the part of the game where the difference in experience becomes unfair, This is the part many people miss when they try to copy elite grapplers, because they copy the final move instead of the system that keeps making the final move available. And then they wonder why the technique worked perfectly in a demonstration but never appears during a hard round. The real lesson from Craig is not that you should train less, party more, or rely on talent, because most people would become worse very quickly if they copied the lifestyle without understanding the skill, while the useful lesson is that intelligent specialization can preserve your level and multiply the value of every hour you do spend training. Craig can return after time away and surprise people because he is not rebuilding Jiu-Jitsu from zero. He is returning to a game where the major decisions have already been organized, the important reactions have already been studied, and the strongest positions are connected through routes he can recognize almost automatically. This is why training harder is not always enough, because more rounds can make you better at surviving random situations, but they do not automatically teach you how to control which situations happen. And the athlete who controls the direction of the match often beats the athlete who is technically competent everywhere, but strategically committed to nothing. Craig's genius is that he can hide this seriousness behind humor, so people remember the partying, the jokes, and the relaxed attitude, while the actual grappling is built on ruthless efficiency and a willingness to ignore large parts of the game that do not help him reach his strongest positions. He does not need to prove that he can out-wrestle every wrestler, outpass every guard player, or move faster than younger athletes, because he only needs enough skill in those areas to redirect the match toward the narrow set of exchanges where his understanding becomes deeper than theirs. That is a very different way to think about improvement, because instead of asking how many new moves you learned this month, you begin asking whether the moves you already know actually connect, whether your escapes lead back into attacks, and whether failed submissions create another threat instead of resetting the entire match. A complete game is not a giant library of disconnected techniques, because under pressure, you will not remember hundreds of options, while a strong game is a smaller number of positions connected so well that each reaction naturally suggests the next decision. This is also why Craig's instructionals are so useful when you study them correctly, because the value is not only in the individual techniques, it is in watching how he explains reactions, how one threat creates another, and how he keeps the opponent inside a family of positions where Craig understands the consequences better than they do. I will put the best Craig Jones instructional for understanding these ideas in the description and pinned comment through BJJ Fanatics, because seeing him demonstrate the entries, reactions, and follow-ups makes the funnel much easier to understand than simply memorizing the final submission. For people who want deeper breakdowns, full guides, and more videos that connect these concepts into an actual Jiu-Jitsu game, my Patreon is also linked in the description and pinned comment, where I post the material that goes further than what I can usually fit into one YouTube video. The biggest takeaway is that Craig Jones is not dangerous because he somehow avoids the normal cost of training. He is dangerous because years of intelligent training gave him a game that continues working even when he is not the fastest, freshest, or most disciplined athlete in the room. That is the real reason Craig can party, take time away, come back, and still beat people who seem more committed, because he is not competing in the same match they think they are having. He is quietly moving them into his match, one reaction at a time.